Real Life, we're so excited to worship with you today, wherever you are. Let's lift up the name of Jesus, knowing that our confidence and our hope is in him. So let's sing together.
I searched the world, it couldn't fill me. Man's empty praise, treasures that fade are never enough. When you came along and put me back together, every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountains is the God of the valley. 'Cause there's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can.
I've carried a burden for too long on my own, and I wasn't created to bear it alone. I hear your invitation to let it all go. Yeah, I see it now. I'm laying it down, and I know that I need you. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again and again and again and again. Oh, oh, oh. You saw my condition, had a plan from the start. Your Son for redemption, the price for my heart. And I don't have a context for that kind of love. I don't understand, I can't comprehend. All I know is I need you. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again and again and again and again. Oh, 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 and again and again. Oh, 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 my heart has been in your sights long before my first breath. Running into your arms is running to life from death. And I feel this rush deep in my chest. Your mercy is calling out. Just as I am, you pull me in, and I know I need you now. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again and again. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart found a surgeon, my soul found a friend. again and again. Oh, 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 and again and again. Oh, oh, oh.
Hey, Real Life, I'm so glad you guys are here today. Welcome back to this series we're calling Finding Hope. I'm so glad you're connecting with us, and thank you so much to our worship team for leading us in worship. Remember what we're doing in this series. We're looking at 5 of the most hopeless stories in the Gospels, those first 4 books of the New Testament. And today, our story comes from John chapter 9. I'm going to ask you to take out a Bible, turn to John chapter 9, and also download your message notes. I believe today you're going to want to write some things down. So take out a sheet of paper, get ready to take some notes today, because today we're going to look at one of the big reasons why people find themselves in a hopeless, emotional place. While you're getting your Bible and your notes ready, let me just say, speaking of hope, I am standing on the stage at the Austin building. It is almost ready for us to gather here on September the 13th. Write that down. Sunday, September the 13th. We're going to have a 9:30 and 11 service. I am so excited to see you guys. I miss you. And this has been a long time coming, 9 years in the making, and I cannot wait to see you face to face on Sunday, September 13th. For those of you who aren't ready to come back, we're still going to have online and be over the internet if you're not ready or not able to. But I believe, as I've spoken to many of you, run into you here in Austin, you're ready. And I miss you, and I can't wait for us to gather Sunday, September the 13th. Today we're looking at this idea of finding hope, and we're seeing how these people in these hopeless situations in the scriptures found hope, and if they can find hope, we can as well. Remember when we talked about the most common reasons for hopelessness, and I've got these in your notes. Check it out on the screen. We've already talked about 2 of these. First of all, you feel alone or abandoned. When you feel alone, you feel hopeless. We've already talked about that. You're never alone. The second reason why people feel hopeless is life seems out of control. When you can't fix it, when you can't solve it, when you can't manipulate the situation, the circumstances, you feel hopeless. Today, we're going to talk about this third one. You don't see a purpose. When you don't see the reason why something is happening, you're going to feel hopeless. When you don't see a purpose in the pain, that pain's going to overwhelm you. But when you realize there is a purpose, or you hold on to the hope that there's a purpose, you can overcome. That purpose can actually overcome the pain. And we're going to learn that today from a man who was definitely in a very hopeless situation, a man who was born blind. So look at John chapter 9. I'll put the verse on the screen as well, but look at verse 1. It says, as Jesus was walking along, he saw a man. Now circle, he saw a man. I'm going to come back to that statement, but this phrase reminds us that Jesus was always looking outward. He was always noticing the needs of others. But he says he saw a man who had been blind from birth. We're going to come back to that phrase, he saw a man. Now, right now, let's look at this question his disciples asked about the blind man. They said, look at this. Rabbi, his disciples asked him, why? Now circle that word, why. This is the big question. This is the big question everybody asks when they go through pain. Have you ever asked this question? Why? God, why is this happening to me? Why now? Why has this tragic event happened? Why am I going through this circumstance? Why is this situation something I'm walking through? Why is this bad thing happening? In this case, the question is, why was this man born blind? Now, Jesus, why? Now, notice the assumption here. This says, was it because of his own sins or his parents' sins? Now, this is human nature right here. When something bad happens to someone, do you assume it's because they did something bad? When something bad happens in your life, do you assume God must be mad at me? You know, in other words, we kind of assume bad equals mad. I'll have people all the time say, well, I had a flat tire, God must be mad at me. I'm going through a bad situation, so God must be mad. I'm going through a good situation, so God must not be mad at me right now. Isn't that what we all assume? Of course. Now, they're saying, Jesus, who did it? His parents or him? I mean, his parents are bad, right? That's what happened. Because his parents are bad, made a lot of bad decisions, that's why. Or he is a sinner, that's why he can't see. That's why this thing's going bad. Now, Jesus says something that shatters those assumptions. Look at what Jesus says. It was not because of his sins or his parents' sins, Jesus answered. So Jesus, why did this happen? Look, he tells you, this happened so the power of God could be seen in him. I want you to underline that in your Bible. So the power of God could be seen in him. What is Jesus saying? He's saying there's a purpose in this pain. Now, this is a radical concept, and that's why I want you to underline it, because when we see someone in pain or we go through pain, we assume that bad equals mad. God must be mad at me. Because we go through our whole lives doing what? Trying to avoid pain, trying to make sure we don't have any pain. And this earth-shattering statement says that this man is blind, and God's power will be seen in his very glaring weakness. Now write this down. Pain seems pointless. That's why I think we struggle with it so much. Why would anybody intentionally go through pain? And how could there possibly be any reason why pain is good? We spend our whole lives trying to avoid pain, trying to get over pain. Have you noticed when you go down the prescription drug aisles, how many things say pain reliever? King Solomon observed this whole life. No matter how much we try to avoid it, no matter how much we try to stop it, pain is going to happen. Look at what he says in Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 22 and 23. He says, what do people get from all of their hard work and struggles under the sun? Their entire life is filled with pain, and their work is unbearable. Even at night, their minds don't rest. Even this, here it is pointless. Doesn't that sound encouraging? Don't read Ecclesiastes if you're depressed, okay? He's like, man, that's just pointless. Pain seems pointless. And listen, when pain seems pointless, that's when you get hopeless. Go all the way to the New Testament. Look at what Paul says in Galatians chapter 3, verse 4. He says, have you gone through all this for nothing? Why have I gone through all this? Why am I dealing with this? Why is this pain? Why is this trouble? Why has this happened? And because pain seems pointless, most people waste the suffering that they go through. Most people don't know how to learn from their losses. And most people don't realize you can actually profit from your problems. You know why? Because write this down, pain has a purpose. Pain may seem pointless, which leads to hopelessness, but pain actually has a purpose. And there's been a lot of research done on this, a lot of scientific research that human beings, we can actually endure a lot of pain, tremendous amount of pain, if we as human beings understand or embrace the purpose. If we know there's a purpose, we're going to go through the pain. It's when we don't understand the purpose or we don't know why it's happening, that's when we can get hopeless. Let me just ask a question. Ladies out there listening to me, ladies who've been through childbirth, it was a lot of pain, I've been told. There's a reason why women have babies, by the way. If guys tried to have, we wouldn't have any babies. But anyway, women go through all this pain to have this child. Now, let me just ask all the moms who are connecting right now by show of hands, how many of you guys would say, you know what, I would go through that pain again. It was worth it to have this child. Unless you have a teenager, you're raising your hand. Yeah, it was worth it, okay? The pain was worth it because there's a purpose. Now, ladies, let me ask this question. How many of you guys would go through the same amount of pain that you went through in childbirth, but there is no purpose? There's not a baby. It's just there's no point to it. No takers. You see, if I don't know the purpose of the pain, I'm not signing up for the pain. And what happens is when we think that pain's pointless and we forget that it actually has a purpose, that's when we get very hopeless. What happened to this guy, Jesus? Why was he born blind? He must have done something bad. Maybe his parents did something bad. Look at him, Jesus. There's no point to it. There's no purpose to it. And no matter what kind of pain that you deal with, no matter what kind of suffering you've been through, and I don't know what you're going through right now. Here's what I know. I know everybody listening to me is going through some form of pain, some form of struggle, some question marks in your heart as to why. Why is this happening? And whether it's relational pain, financial pain, maybe it's just mental anguish, whatever the situation, if you can actually focus on the potential benefits and that this pain actually possibly can have a purpose, not only will that pain not overcome you, you will actually overcome that pain. So where do I get that kind of encouragement? How do I find encouragement in my pain? I'm glad you asked. The Bible. This is where you want to go. This is the book you want to lean into because the purposes and promises of God are right here in the Bible. Look at this. Let me show you a couple. Proverbs chapter 20, verse 30. Look at what it says. In your notes are on the screen. Check this out. Sometimes it takes a painful experience to make us change our ways. Anybody want to give a testimony to that verse? You know, sometimes you don't change and get back on God's path until you have pain. And there's a pain point is what it's called. Pain is not pointless. It actually changes us, what this verse is saying. You see, for many of us, we don't change when we see the light. We change when we feel the heat. And all of a sudden it's like, ooh, I need to move. I need to change. And what's happening is God the Father wants to make you like Jesus. God is much more interested in your character than your comfort. Big deal, big difference. And because God the Father wants to make you like Jesus, why would he not allow you and I as followers of Jesus to go through what Jesus went through? Jesus went through rejection. He went through hardship. He went through criticism. He went through betrayal. He went through persecution. And God can take all of your troubles, just like he did with Jesus, and grow you to be more like Christ. And he can use it, painful experiences, to actually change you for the better if you see the purpose. Here's another verse, Romans chapter 8, verse 28, very famous verse and promise about pain. It says this, look at it on the screen or in your notes. It says, and we know that God causes everything to work together, watch this, for the good. Very important you circle for the good. It does not say everything is good. Listen, a lot of pain is not good. Matter of fact, pain is horrible. It's hard. Many times it's tragic. But God is so amazing, he can even take the bad and turn it for the good of who? Those who love God. You see, the promises of God have a premise. And if you love God, if you lean into him, and you're called according to, watch this, his what? Purpose. Circle that. His purpose for them. You see, if you lean in and say, God, I'm going to trust you that you've got a purpose. God, this pain is not pointless. And if you don't see a purpose, you're going to get hopeless. And can I just even speak into what we're dealing with right now with this pandemic? If you're like, it's pointless, it doesn't make any sense, and I don't even understand, and you just stay in that state, you're going to get overwhelmed by the pandemic, and some have. Depression is up, anxiety is up, stress is up. Unfortunately, even suicide is up. And listen, friend, if you are even considering to make that, please listen. We love you. Reach out to us. We care about you. God loves you. And do not make a permanent decision based on a temporary situation you're in. That pain is not pointless. But a lot of times we just get under the pandemic. But when we look at this, I've talked to so many of you and you've said, you know what? It's been crazy. It's been hard, but I've really learned a lot. You know, it's really brought our family together. You know, what's really caused me to realize how much I was leaning into work and not my kids or whatever it might be. In other words, I'm watching the purpose unfold here. God has worked even this horrible global pandemic for the good if you lean in and you love God and you trust his purpose for you. You see, you can actually gain from your pain. You ever heard the phrase, no pain, no gain? We all like that. Our coach in high school probably told you that. And you're like, you know, or if you walk into a gym, you know, and you're about to sign up a membership and then you see that on the wall, no pain, no gain. You're like, I'm going to sign up somewhere else, you know. Well, what is it saying? Like, man, it's going to be painful if you really want to work out. And life is no different. than a gym, because this workout called life is going to have pain in it, but that pain is not pointless, and you can actually gain from it. Now, here's the challenge. Most people don't know how to gain from their pain, and that's what I want us to talk about today. You see, I want you to know that I'm not sharing a sermon with you today. I'm giving you a testimony. This is from personal experience. And I'm not giving you a theological treatise on suffering in the world. I'm going to walk through what I learned about pain. Most of you know that 3 years ago, matter of fact, this is the 3-year anniversary of my dad passing away. And the Sunday before he died, he was able to come to Bowie High School where Austin campus was meeting, and he had a great Sunday. Nobody knew it was, 5 days before he would pass away. But let me show you a few pictures. Check this out. This is my dad right after church. He's so proud of his son. And this is my typical picture of my dad, smiling, holding his Bible, bragging about his kid, encouraging everybody. He was telling everybody real life's going to be huge for the kingdom. And then right after church, check this picture out. He was able to pour into his grandkids. Here he is on my back porch sharing some wisdom with my daughter, Meg. And then later that afternoon, here's a pic of baptism, because we had baptism here on the property, crazy. Before the building started going, before we even had the foundation here, we had baptism on the property, and everybody that got out of the baptistry got a big hug from my dad. Didn't matter if they were soaking wet. He loved it. But let me show you my dad's favorite part of the baptism day. Check out this picture. Here's my dad holding his great-granddaughter, Ivy. She was the absolute highlight of his life. You see, even when all that was going on, no one had any idea, including my dad and myself, that 5 days later, my dad would change his address from earth to heaven. Now, other people don't realize that in that same time of loss for me and grieving, I was going through another phase of loss. And what was happening is to summarize, there were 5 other people in my life within 30 days of my dad passing away who either betrayed me, lied about me, or walked away from me, or all 3. And I want you to know I've forgiven them. God has healed all of that hurt. He's brought me through that valley. But I'm telling you, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, not just losing my dad, but losing these other relationships as well, and especially the way I lost them. Now, when I stack all that up, people who know all the details and all the facts and all the stories and all the people that I'm alluding to, I say, Micah, how did you make it through it? How did you get over it? And I want you to know that God doesn't get you over the pain. He gets you through the pain, and He can grow you through it. And I'm about to share with you 3 ways that I didn't just get through the pain I've been through. I grew through it. Matter of fact, I'm better because of it, and I'm stronger because of it. And I want to share how I did that, because some of you are going through pain right now, and you're like, what's the point? Nothing's going to change. I don't even see why. And I'm going to share with you how you can literally take the pain you're dealing with and how God took the pain that I went through. It was bad. It was horrible. It was not good. But how God turned it for my good and how He can do the same for you. And you're going to want to write these down. And if you're going through a problem or a pain right now, it might even be hard to hear this, but I'm telling you it's true. And this is more than a sermon. It's more than a message. It's my life. And so let me share with you what I learned. First of all, write this down. Use pain to draw closer to God. Very important. Use pain to draw closer to God. When pain happens, you've got 2 choices. Run to God or run away from God. And let me just ask you, if you are running away from God right now and you're listening to this, if you're running away from God right now, here's my question. Where are you going? Who are you going to? What could you possibly find in anything else? And what we try to do is when we go through pain, we try to numb the pain. We try to medicate ourselves. And I'm telling you, you can run to all kinds of things when you go through pain besides God, but all of them are empty. All of them are a dead end. And many of them are very, very destructive. And listen, whatever you go to try to numb the pain, you wake up the next day and the pain's still there. And often it's worse. And so I want to encourage you to run to God. That's what I did. And it was hard, but I chose to turn to God. And I just poured out my heart to him. Pain has a way of drawing you close to God. You say, well, what do I do with the pain? I mean, what am I going to talk to God about? Be honest with him. And you may say, well, I'm really mad at God. So was I. Tell him. Just spend time with him. Pour your heart out to God. God, I am mad right now. I am angry at you. Just tell him. Cry out to him. He can take it. God, I don't understand. I am in pain right now. Tell him how you feel. Listen, don't suppress the pain. Confess it. Draw close to him. This blind man was absolutely helpless, powerless to change his situation. But you can watch John chapter 9. This guy gets a whole chapter in the Bible. And the whole time, whatever you're doing, I'm right there. Whatever you want me to do. It says that Jesus put mud on the guy's eyes. He spit on the ground, put mud on his eyes. That's ridiculous. And told him to go wash in this pool. You know, it's like, I'm all in. No matter how ridiculous it may seem. And it may seem ridiculous to you to go to God when you're mad at him. But I'm telling you, he's a good God. And he's the only one that can not only take on that pain, but help you with it and let the pain draw you closer to him. Look at 2 Corinthians chapter 1. Look at what it says. Paul's saying, listen, we were really overwhelmed, and some of you feel overwhelmed right now. Look at what he says. We were overwhelmed and saw how powerless we were to help ourselves. You ever been there? I cannot help myself. I do not know what to do. I cannot fix this. Well, look at this. But that was good. He actually says that was good. It was good that we couldn't fix it. It was good that we couldn't help ourselves. Look at this. For then, watch this, what do? We put everything into the hands of God, who alone could save us. I'm going to ask you right now, listen, I don't know why you're connecting, but it's not an accident you're with us today over the internet. And you may be alone right now or watching this with a few friends or family, but I'm going to ask you, what have you not put in the hands of God? Just trust him right now and just put it in his hands. This blind man in John chapter 9 said, I'm all in. Jesus, what do you want me to do? I don't understand why I'm in this situation, but I am going to turn to who can help me with it. And go to God right now and just say, you know what, I'm going to put this in your hands. And listen, hundreds of people at Real Life, I could tell you hundreds of stories of people who actually have been saved through their valley. Literally coming to Jesus through the most difficult time in their life. You know why? Because they got to them themselves. They couldn't fix it. They were like, hey, I'm riding high. I got this. This is my stuff, my family, my house. But when it all goes away, wow, I need God. Yes, you do, friend. You need him. You need him, and turn to him. And when you can't fix it, you can't solve it, and you're powerless, that's when you put it in his hands. And problems teach us to trust God. Look at 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 9. It says, but as a result, we stopped relying on ourselves and learned to rely only on God, who raises the dead. When you go through pain, you learn to rely on God. We've said this many times. C.S. Lewis says that God whispers to you on the good days, but he yells at you on the bad. And when you're going through pain, it's like God saying, come to me. I got you. But here's the good news. When you use pain to draw close to God, the good news is when you're in pain, he's already there. Look at what this verse says. Psalm 34. I love this verse. Verse 18. Look at it in your notes or on the screen. It says, watch this. The Lord is close. He's already close to you. He's right there in that room with you. He's right there in that car with you. Wherever you're watching this, he's with you right now. Look at this. The Lord is close. You're like, but I'm in pain. I'm in trouble. I'm suffering. My heart is broken. Look at this. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. And I love this. He rescues those whose spirits are crushed. One of the many reasons I'm excited about this building that I'm standing in is 100,000 people within 7 miles of here. Many of them are brokenhearted, overwhelmed, going through struggles, going through pain, and don't know where to turn. And they just need to know the Lord is close to you. And this is a rescue station that will remind them that he rescues those whose spirits are crushed. So let the pain turn you to God. Friend, right now, would you turn your life over to God? Open your heart to Him. Trust Him. It's the most life-changing decision you can make, and hundreds of people have at Real Life. Second thing, so first of all, use the pain to draw close to God, but also write this down, use the pain to draw close to others. Pain will deepen and mature your relationships. It's real. It'll build real relationships. And I want to encourage you to really lean in. I believe this pandemic has helped some people get connected, but other people feel isolated. I know that many people feel lonely right now. And we've already talked about that, but I want to encourage you to get into relationships, draw close to people. And when you're in pain, a lot of times what you want to do is just isolate yourself and try to medicate yourself and try to solve it yourself or try to just be alone. It's not going to work. You're going to literally drown in your own depression. But when you reach out and say, hey, I need people, that's when you're going to find hope, and that's when you're going to find healing through community. We talked about that, but I want to encourage you to take out your cell phone and text RL Groups to 97000. We're going to launch groups in about 25 days or so, and I want to encourage you to get in one. From September 13th through December 13th, once a week for 1 hour, try a group. Let us help you get connected. When you text RL Groups to 97000, you will let us know that you're interested in being in a group. And I just met with life group leaders at our leadership summit on Zoom, and it was just encouraging to see all the faces of people that care about you, that want to help. And we've got life groups this semester that'll be all on Zoom. We've got life groups that'll be in person for every age, every stage of life, at all different times of the week and days of the week. Please get in a group. I know I've said it, but what I love about this man who's born blind is there's a group of people that are around him, and he's leaning into Jesus, and literally he gets a whole chapter because his whole story is, hey, I was blind, but now I see. I don't know a lot, but I'm all in. You know, suffering has a way of really curing you from being self-centered, and I'm just so thankful there were so many people that gathered around me, specifically the elders of Real Life. They were so real with me. I was so real with them. They knew all the pain, all the suffering I was going through, and they were able to help me. And you say, well, how do I help my friend? My friend's really suffering right now. Let me give you Pastoral Care 101. Are you ready? When your friend is struggling, what you want to do is you want to get to them. You say, well, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go to the hospital. I want to go to their house. I don't know what to say. I mean, listen, don't say anything. As a matter of fact, the greater the tragedy, the more pain they're going through, the less you need to say, okay? Let me summarize it this way. Show up and then shut up. Just be there. Jesus actually didn't say a lot to this man born blind. He really didn't. But he was there and he saw him. And when you show up, what you're saying is I see you. I don't know what to say, but I'm here. And that message through someone's grief is huge. They don't need a sermon from you. Don't try to explain it. And please, if someone is really suffering, do not quote Romans 8:28. Well, I want you to know that God's going to use all this for the good. They will throw the Bible at you. Don't do that. Just be there. Minister, get close to people and care about them. Look at Galatians chapter 6, verse 2. It says this, by helping each other with your troubles, you truly obey the law of Christ. Just circle helping each other. I want to encourage you to get into a group, because when you do, you're going to care for people. It's going to help you a ton. If you was like, how do I get out of my own rut? How do I get out of my own head? How do I get out of my own struggle with this pain? Go help somebody else. See someone else's need. Jesus saw this man. I told you I'd come back to that phrase, and now I'm here. He saw this man. It says you may truly obey the law of Christ. What's the law of Christ? Love your neighbor as yourself. And Jesus didn't just teach it. He showed it. You see, love is doing the sacrificial thing. Love is serving someone else. And the disciples walked by, saw a guy in need, and just talked behind his back. Jesus saw the man, said, I'm going to do something about it. I want to give you a very practical way to do this. I'm very excited about this opportunity for us as a church, and we always do this time of year. It's been a little bit unique, but I'm going to encourage you to help us get some children who are in need of some school supplies when they come back to school after Labor Day. Now, I know some schools have actually started in person, most online. Some haven't started at all. But all of this in Austin started at Clayton Elementary School, which is in Circle C, and they have a sister elementary school called Perez Elementary School on the east side of I-35. And I'm going to encourage you to do this. This will help that school. So take out your cell phone, your smartphone, and I want you to download our app. Here's how you do that. So you go to your app store and type in MYRLLF. So make sure, as you see that on the screen, MYRLLF. And so this is how you download our app. Don't type in real life. You get super confused. But MYRLLF, our app will pop up. Download that app, and you can give straight through this app, okay? So once you download the app and open it, you're going to see that give button. You can also do this on myreallife.org as well, but the app is a lot more fun and easy. You click on the give button, and you're going to see on that give button a little drop down that says school supplies, backpack drive. And when you see that, that's what I want you to do. I want you to click on there. You say, Michael, what do I give? I'm going to encourage everybody listening to me to consider giving $45. You say, what's the secret about $45? Well, $45 will buy a child a backpack and all the supplies to go in it. Pretty cool. And some of you may not be able to do that. That's why there's not a $45 set number when you go to the drop down for this school supplies, this backpack drive. It'll just have a blank there. Some of you won't be able to give $45. That's okay. Give what you can. We're also going to be giving HEB gift cards to some families, as well as helping a few of these kids with internet access. So there's other things that we're going to do for Perez Elementary. There's many of you who can give more than $45. I would encourage you to do that. But what an amazing way to bless. You see, we can sit here and think about how COVID-19 has affected us. And, I can't even go to the movie theater right now. I haven't been to Alamo Drafthouse in 6 months. Or we can actually think about people who have real problems and are really struggling. I'm going to help a kid get school supplies. I'm going to help a family get an HEB gift card who are really in need and have truly been impacted by this pandemic. And what an amazing way, as it says here in the scripture, to help other people. Listen, if you want to get over your pain, stop sitting around talking about it, see someone else's need. Jesus is heading for the cross, the most amazing suffering anyone's ever been through or will go through. But instead of focusing on that, walking through town going, I'm about to go through so much pain. I've been through criticism already. The Pharisees don't like me. He's just looking for the next need, looking for the next opportunity, and use that pain to truly help you see someone else's need. You see, the disciples hadn't gotten that yet. And let me just tell you, it's a sign of maturity. If you want to be an immature person, just sit around and talk about other people. Well, have you heard about them? And that's what the disciples are doing. Hey, what's with the blind guy? His parents messed up, didn't they, Jesus? I mean, he's probably a loser, right? And they're just talking about this guy. That's very immature to do. Maturity, being like Jesus, is seeing the need. How can I help? Jesus sees this person hurting and wants to help them. Look at 2 Corinthians chapter 4. I love this. It says, we are pressed on every side by troubles, but not crushed or broken. Whatever you're going through today, it may feel like it's going to crush you, but it's not. It says we are perplexed because why? We don't know why. If you stay there, why? Why is this happening? Why? It feels pointless. Don't keep sitting on the why. Listen, we don't know why things happen as they do. Paul's been through every possible trouble you can imagine, but he says this. He says, we don't give up and we don't quit. He says we're hunted down, but God never abandons us. We get knocked down, but we get up again and we keep going. You see, the enemy, the devil, wants to use your pain to knock you down and keep you down and make you want to quit. But God can actually take that pain and he can actually move you to a place where you trust his purpose in it. And watch this, write this down. He can actually use the pain as your ministry. So those are the three things. Use the pain to get closer to God. I have read the Bible and prayed more in the last 3 years than the last 10. I mean, just the pain has drawn me to God, and he's made me stronger. It's made me better. Use the pain to get you closer to other people. And I've got just a handful of people that I completely trust. I'm very thankful for, and God can bring those people to you. We've already talked about groups, but use the pain as your ministry. He can take my misery and it can become my ministry. Wait a minute. How can a tragic story become a triumphant story? Well, you see it here in John chapter 9. How does it happen? You put your problem in the hands of Jesus. You trust the situation to his timing, his plan. He takes the hurt and he brings healing. But he doesn't just heal you. He heals others through your story. This blind man has had a whole chapter in the Bible for 2,000 years. His story is amazing. His story has inspired generation after generation after generation because his story shakes up not just the village he was in at this moment in time, but your life as well. Wait a minute. If this guy is not going to be hopeless, neither am I. I was blind, but now I see that God takes all things for the good of those who love him. Watch this. Paul used to kill Christians, but now he's a minister of the gospel. He became a follower of Jesus. He went from a murderer to a missionary. He started churches, and now he's in prison for being a Christian. And look at what he says about pain in 2 Corinthians chapter 1. In your notes are on the screen. Check this out. He says, he comforts us in all of our troubles. Watch this. So that, what's the purpose of pain? So you get closer to God. And as you get closer to God, he comforts you. And when you get in community with a handful of other people who truly care about you, he comforts you. And as he comforts us in all our troubles, so that what? We can comfort other people. When they are troubled, we will be able to give them the same comfort God has given to us. Man, just think about this. Who better to help someone than someone who's already been through it? Who would see all of the blind who need to see in town more than the man who was blind, now he sees? You see, God's going to take your trouble and he's going to make it a triumph in your life. He's going to take your misery or even your mess up, and he's going to make it your ministry. Who better to help someone who's been molested as a child than someone who's already found comfort and healing through that? Who better to help someone who doesn't have a dad than someone who grew up without a dad? Who better to help somebody in a financial situation? I mean, even Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey went bankrupt when he was in his 20s. And he could have sat there in that pain and that embarrassment and that mess up and said, well, God can't use me in this misery. Yes, he can. He's going to make your misery your message. And Dave Ramsey is very passionate about helping people financially. Well, that's why we have Financial Peace Life Group every semester of life groups. Got one this fall as well. But whatever your situation is, who better to help with somebody who's going through a divorce than somebody who has survived a divorce? Who better to help somebody who has just found out they have cancer than someone who's had cancer, who's walked through that news? See what I'm saying? God can take the misery and he can make it your ministry, because who better to help someone else than someone who's been through it? I used to struggle, you may say, with an addiction to prescription drugs. You're going to help somebody who has that struggle now. You see, when I share my strengths with you, that doesn't draw us closer together. Matter of fact, it pushes us apart. Oh, wow, I can never. But when I share my weaknesses, that draws us close. Listen, your greatest ministry will come out of your greatest pain. I have helped more people with their marriages in the last 3 years than in my entire ministry. Doesn't even make sense, but yet it does. Look at what Paul says in Philippians chapter 1, verse 12. He says, I want you to know, my dear brothers and sisters, that everything that's happened to me here has, watch this, helped to spread the good news. You've got to hear this today. God is not going to waste your hurt. He is not going to waste your hurt. But let me tell you what does not impress the world. What does not impress the world is a Christian who acts like they are perfect. What does not impress the world is a Christian who walks around and says, I have the perfect life, the perfect marriage, the perfect kids, the perfect situation, and they walk around, they smile all the time as if Christians are always happy. That does not impress the world. You know what impresses the world? A Christian who walks through adversity and is real about it. That's why Paul was the greatest missionary ever lived. He's like, hey, my name's Paul. I used to kill Christians, but I am one now. He has everybody's attention in the room. Same thing with John chapter 9. Hey, I just want to introduce myself. I was blind, lived in this village over here, but now I see. Oh, you've got my attention now. You see, that's what gets the world's attention. He says it's helped to spread the good news everywhere. A Christian who can go through a difficult time and go through a hardship. You see, we think that our success is our credibility. But no. Actually, our suffering is our credibility. You see, in John chapter 9, we see it. In the Apostle Paul, we see it. And we definitely see it in Jesus. His suffering is what draws us to him. And he died on a tree 2,000 years ago. And he is the most prominent person of history today because his suffering gives him credibility. And I want you to write this down as we close today. Listen, you were made for a mission. When you're going through pain, you don't see the point. But I'm telling you, there's a purpose through it. There's a mission because of it. And I want to go all the way back to our text and give you a couple applications here. So John chapter 9, it's very interesting. Right after the discussion about the blind man, matter of fact, before Jesus heals the guy, he's not even healed yet. Look at what Jesus tells his followers, tells us. Look at verse 4 of John chapter 9. He says, we must quickly, and I'm telling you real life, we must quickly carry out the task assigned to us by the one who sent us. You have got to stop sitting in your depression, sitting in your discouragement, sitting in your situation, just wallowing in the pain. He says, we do not have long to carry out the task assigned to us by the one who sent. The night is coming, and then no one can work. But while I am here in the world, I am the light of the world. And I want to encourage you to really connect to real life in these coming days and say, you know what? I'm going to not only step into the light in my own life, I'm going to help real life push back darkness with the light and love of Jesus. You say, well, how would I do that? Let me share with you how. You ready? First of all, I want you to come to team night. That's this Wednesday right here in this building. And team night will be from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And just a 2-hour time frame. I'm going to share a brief word of encouragement for all of our volunteers, and then you're going to break off into groups for about an hour in smaller groups and actually get trained and get motivated and get some guidance on how we're going to get this thing going on September 13th. And so we already have over 100 people signed up, but I'm going to encourage you to sign up for team night. And you can do that by texting us or just by coming. But I want to encourage you to be here at this building this Wednesday night from 6 o'clock to 8, team night. You say, I don't know where I would serve. If you're just willing to help, we're going to find a place for you. But we got greeters, we've got ushers, we've got people in the parking lot, kids ministry, youth ministry, you name it. You can come, production, all of those things. So help us with team night. Another way you can just dive in, literally applying this, not even waiting till Wednesday, is come to Next Step. It's right after this service, okay? It's at 12:30. I'm going to be live on Zoom with whoever would like to really say, I need to get in on my mission. I've been through some pain, some trouble, some struggles. Whether you're in it right now, been through it, whatever you are, I want to help you find your purpose and really know this is your family. This is real people. Your pastor is not perfect. I've been through a lot of valleys, and we want to help you connect to this family and not just be cared for, but really reach out and care for others. Hang out with me for an hour and a half right after this at 12:30, just for an hour and a half. I'd love to see you there and speak into your life and just help you with very, very practical ways to grow and connect to the family, okay? And then one last thing. I've already mentioned it. September 13th. Yeah, September 13th. Get to this building, see what God's going to do, and lean in to community. One other way I've already mentioned as well is just to give. So there's a QR code up there. Listen, scan that. If you aren't even a part of the family, just give to help some kids get school supplies and backpacks. Just scroll down, and again, the challenge is $45. But also, huge thank you to our people at Real Life for being so generous and helping us as you do in so many ways. But as you pray about giving and pray about helping us get this message of hope out, I want to give you a blessing. And I want to encourage you to receive today. Receive Jesus. Come close to God. And I already know that He is close to you. So let's pray about that together right now. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for your love and grace. And right now I pray that every person listening would open their heart to you, that we would draw close to you and know that you're close to us. Jesus, thank you for the suffering you went through on the cross, and that suffering had a purpose. It was so that no one would perish, but everyone would repent, would turn and change and be able to come to your love and to the light and open their heart and know the path, the way to heaven is you, Jesus. May all of us, especially those going through pain, step into that purpose, Lord. And I thank you that you've got a plan and a purpose for every person connecting today. Lord, please help us as we open up the doors of this building to realize that it is a rescue station. This is a spiritual moment for our church. And God, help us to lean in and not just focus on our problems and our pain and our suffering, but to realize 100,000 people around this building are in desperate search and need of hope and a purpose in their pain. Jesus, thank you. Thank you for your love and grace. Thank you for your healing. Thank you that we're never alone in the valley. And I thank you, God, that if you can get this blind man through it, and if you can get Paul through it, and you can get me through it, you can get everybody listening to this through it. And I just thank you, God, that you don't want us to get over it. You want us to go through it and grow through it. And I pray, God, that you would help us gain through the pain and realize, God, that you have brought purpose and you never waste a hurt. Lord, we love you and we thank you. And for those who are truly hurting today, bring healing now and encouragement. And Father, as we lean into you and our church family, I thank you for what you're going to do through us and in us and around us by your power that is at work within us. We ask this in the name of Jesus, and everybody said, amen. We'll see you next week online, Real Life. God bless you guys.